Old man waits. Son says, "No, father." The heat pressed down like a heavy hand. The sun burned bright over the city, making the roads shimmer. Wallace Munro stood quietly outside a tall black iron gate, the kind you only see in rich neighborhoods. He looked small next to it, thin, hunched, and worn out from the long walk. His skin was darkened and dry from too many years under the sun. His shirt was clean but faded, the color long gone. One of the sleeves had a tear at the elbow. His trousers were old, patched near the knees, and too loose at the waist. He had tied them with a thin rope where a belt used to be. His shoes, leather once, but now split at the sides, made a scraping sound as he shifted from foot to foot. In his right hand, he carried a soft cloth bag, the kind used to carry groceries. It sagged with the shape of something light inside, just a pair of worn-out shoes and a plastic-covered photo from long ago. Wallace gently wiped the sweat from his forehead with the edge of his sleeve. His hand trembled slightly, from tiredness or age. It was hard to tell which. He stood quietly, respectfully, just outside the gate of the luxury compound, waiting for the young security guard to acknowledge him. The guard stood straight with a stiff posture, dressed in a sharp blue uniform and dark sunglasses. He looked at Wallace like someone looks at a stray dog, more curiosity than concern. Wallace gave a small, tired smile. "I'm here to see Andre Munro. He lives in this building," he said softly. "He's my son." The guard didn't respond right away. He pressed a small button on the side of his walkie-talkie and turned his head slightly to speak into it. "Got an old man out here asking for Mr. Andre Munro," he said in a flat tone. "Says he's his father." There was silence. Wallace waited. His back hurt from standing too long, but he didn't move. He stood still, eyes on the guard, hope flickering faintly behind them. A few cars passed behind him. One slowed down, but didn't stop. After a few seconds, the guard's earpiece crackled. He listened, then turned back to Wallace. "He said not to let you in," the guard said coldly. "Said he doesn't know anyone named Wallace." Wallace didn't react right away. For a few seconds, he simply stood there, blinking slowly. He looked at the guard again, as if he had misheard. Then he gave a small nod. "Okay," he said, barely above a whisper. He didn't beg. He didn't ask again. He didn't argue. He didn't even look angry. There was just a strange silence around him, like something invisible had cracked inside. He turned around, slowly, and started walking away. The cloth bag swayed gently at his side. His feet dragged a little more now. His shoulders drooped, but his face remained calm, empty, as though he had already expected this to happen. The security guard watched him go for a few moments, then went back to scrolling on his phone. Behind the gates, tall glass buildings stretched toward the sky. A fountain trickled in the corner. Somewhere inside, a man named Andre Munro lived in comfort, giving interviews and speaking about success. But outside, on the sidewalk, his father was walking away, quiet, alone. Wallace did not look back. He just walked, one slow step at a time, into the noise and dust of the city. Wallace raised Andre alone after his wife died during childbirth. It was a hard life, full of long days and quiet nights. Wallace never went to school. He couldn't read or write, but he worked hard every single day to make sure his son would never go to bed hungry. First, he was a city maintenance worker, fixing streetlights and clearing garbage. Later, when his knees started to hurt, he took a job as a janitor in a public high school. The pay was small. Some months, it wasn't enough, but Wallace always found a way to make it stretch. Rice and beans lasted longer if you cooked them slow. Bread tasted fine with onions and salt. Andre was a smart boy, sharp, always reading, always asking questions. But even as a child, he carried a deep anger. He hated how small their house was, how his classmates laughed at his shoes, how his father came home smelling like trash and sweat. Wallace never blamed him for the anger. He understood it. They lived in a small flat with no fridge, no fans, and only one bulb in the sitting room. At night, Wallace would wash their only 2 plates and quietly listen as Andre whispered math formulas to himself in the dark. Andre got a scholarship to university, but it didn't cover everything. There were textbooks to buy, hostel fees, food to eat. Wallace knew he couldn't afford it, not on his salary, so he made the biggest decision of his life. He sold his father's land. It was land that had been in their family for generations. Red earth, full of palm trees and cassava, far away in a quiet village where Wallace had once played as a boy. He had promised himself he would never sell it, but for Andre, he did. He sold it quietly. No drama, no speeches, just a simple paper signed at a lawyer's table. He used the money to pay Andre's rent, his books, his transport. When the money finished, Wallace moved out of their flat and into a men's boarding house, a small room with 4 other old men, 2 fans and a leaking roof. Andre graduated top of his class. He wore a clean black suit and smiled wide in the graduation photo. Wallace stood at the back of the crowd, clapping softly, wearing his best shirt, washed and ironed 3 times to remove the smell of dust. After graduation, Andre moved to another city. He told Wallace he needed space, needed to build a different kind of life. Wallace didn't argue. He just nodded and said, "All right, my son." Weeks passed, then months, then years. Andre stopped calling, stopped answering texts, stopped sending birthday wishes. Once, Wallace called him on a borrowed phone from a church friend. Andre picked up, said he was in a meeting, and never called back. Wallace didn't try again. He spent his days cleaning his small corner of the room, folding his clothes, sweeping the floor twice a day. At night, he listened to the sounds of the city and whispered prayers with no names attached. He never told the other boarders about Andre, not the full story. He just said his son was doing well, by God's grace. Wallace turned 68 last month. No cake, just a plate of rice and stew shared with a neighbor named Marco. His legs hurt more these days. His back creaks when he bends. His cough gets worse every harmattan. One morning, Wallace was walking to the chemist to ask about cheaper cough medicine when he saw a large billboard near the express road. On it was a man in a dark blue suit, smiling with confidence. The name under the photo, Andre Monroe. The slogan, "Break from the past, build your future." Wallace stopped and stared for a long time. People walked past him on both sides, some pointing at the billboard, saying things like, "That's the guy who teaches investments," or "He's on TV every Sunday now." Wallace didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the photo. That face, sharper now, more serious, but still his son. He didn't feel sad. Not exactly. He felt still, like water that had stopped moving. That night, in the boarding house, Wallace lay on his mat, staring at the ceiling. He thought about Andre's laugh when he was a child, about the time he scraped his knee playing football and cried until Wallace carried him home. He thought about the land he sold, the trees that once gave shade, the soil that once held his family's name. In the morning, he packed a small cloth bag. Inside, an old pair of shoes he wanted to give Andre. His first school shoes, saved all these years, and a plastic-covered photo of them together at the graduation. He didn't want money. He didn't want to live in the big house. He just wanted to see him again, see his face, hear his voice, even if it was just one more time. He ironed his shirt as best he could with a hot bottle, washed his face, polished his old shoes with spit and an old sock. And then Wallace stepped out into the heat, ready to take the long journey across town, not to beg, not to fight, just to look at his son, his only son, once more. Wallace makes the trip across town. It's scorching. His shoes blister his feet. The sun beats down hard on his thin back as he walks slowly down the road. Sweat rolls down the side of his face and soaks the collar of his faded shirt. His knees ache with every step, but he doesn't stop. He just keeps walking, holding the small cloth bag close to his side, like it carries something precious. The city has changed. Tall glass buildings now stand where old shops used to be. Wide roads, fast cars, expensive gates. Wallace has to stop often to check the small piece of paper he wrote the address on. He asks 2 women by a kiosk for directions. They look at him quickly, then back at their phones. One of them points in the direction of the next street. After a long walk, Wallace finally finds the building. It's a tall modern tower with shiny walls and a black iron gate in front. There's a guard sitting in a small security post, wearing a navy blue uniform and sunglasses. Wallace steps closer, adjusting the bag in his hand. He clears his throat. "Good afternoon," he says softly. "I'm looking for someone. Andre Monroe. He lives here." The guard doesn't answer right away. He takes out a small walkie-talkie and presses the button. "Got one here asking for Mr. Monroe," he says. There's a long pause. Wallace stands still, looking up at the tall building. He wonders which floor his son lives on. Maybe the one with the big windows. Maybe the one with the green plants on the balcony. Then, The walkie-talkie crackles back. "Tell him we don't know any Wallace. Don't let him in." The guard turns to Wallace. "He said not to let you in. Said he doesn't know you." Wallace blinks once. He doesn't say anything, just stands there for a few seconds, as if he didn't hear right. Then, very gently, he nods. "Okay," he says. He turns around slowly. His steps are smaller now. The cloth bag in his hand swings quietly at his side as he walks away from the gate. The guard doesn't watch him leave. He goes back to scrolling on his phone. Wallace walks to the bus stop. He waits quietly, not speaking to anyone. When the bus arrives, he climbs in and sits by the window. The ride is long and bumpy. People get in and out. No one notices him. No one asks where he's coming from or where he's going. When he gets back to the boarding house, it's already dark. The other men are gathered around the old TV, watching a football match. Someone offers Wallace a seat, but he shakes his head. "You go ahead," he says softly. He walks into the shared room, puts the cloth bag down in the corner. He takes off his shoes, slowly. His feet are red and swollen. A little blood shows through one sock. He lies down on his mat, facing the wall. The fan turns slowly above him, making a quiet, ticking sound. One of the boarders, an older man named Marco, comes in, holding a plastic plate of rice and beans. "You didn't eat all day," Marco says. "Take some." Wallace gives a small smile. He doesn't reach for the plate. "Long day," he says. Mako waits a moment, then nods and leaves the plate on the floor beside him. Wallace doesn't touch it. He closes his eyes and listens to the sound of laughter coming from the TV room. The voices fade as his mind drifts. He sees the land again, the old cassava fields, the red dirt road, the house where his father once sat under the mango tree, carving wood with a knife. He sees Andre, 6 years old, laughing as he runs through the tall grass, with his school uniform too big for his body. Wallace had bought that uniform second-hand and washed it 3 times before giving it to him. Now his son lived in a tower and said he didn't know him. Wallace doesn't cry. He just lies there, quiet, still. The cloth bag still sits in the corner, unopened. The old shoes inside are never given. He wakes up later every day now. Wallace doesn't have much energy in the mornings. His back aches more. The cough that used to come only at night now stays with him all day. It rattles in his chest like something loose inside. He drinks water to ease it, but the pain lingers. He skips breakfast, then lunch. At first, some of the men in the boarding house ask him if he's okay. He always says, "I'm fine, just not hungry." After a few days, they stop asking. People go about their day. Everyone in that place is tired, just trying to survive. Wallace moves slower now. His face has grown thinner. His hands shake when he buttons his shirt. His clothes hang loose on his small frame. The little money he gets from his monthly pension, he spends mostly on medicine and water. He stopped buying meat. Even bread is now a luxury. Most days, he eats plain rice with pepper. Some days, nothing. He doesn't go far anymore. But on days when the sun isn't too hot, Wallace walks to the nearby park and sits on a bench. He watches children run across the grass. He smiles when they laugh. A little boy once came up to him, holding a small toy car. "Are you homeless, sir?" the child asked with wide, curious eyes. Wallace looked at him and smiled gently. "No," he said, "just resting." The boy nodded and ran back to his mother. Wallace's shoes give up one evening. The soles come apart. The rubber peels open at the toes. He sits on the edge of his bed and looks at them in silence. He reaches into his cloth bag and pulls out an old roll of black electrical tape. Slowly, carefully, he wraps the tape around the shoes, covering the torn part. No one sees him do it. No one asks about it the next day when he walks out with the patched shoes. He doesn't say anything either. He talks less now. When people speak in the common room, he nods, but rarely joins in. When Mako jokes, Wallace gives a tired smile but doesn't laugh. He's always either staring out the window or lying on his side on the thin mattress, his back to the world. At night, the cough returns harder. It wakes him up. He holds a hand to his chest, trying to steady his breath. He doesn't go to the clinic. He doesn't want to bother anyone. Back across town, Andre Monroe stands on a grand stage. He wears a fitted navy suit, polished shoes, and a wireless microphone. Behind him, a massive screen reads, "Break free from toxic ties." The hall is packed. Hundreds of young professionals, investors, and entrepreneurs hang on to every word. Andre walks across the stage, calm and confident. "You owe nothing to your past," he says. "Not your family, not your background. You are not where you came from. Cut the noise. Cut Cut the excuses. If they didn't help you build, they don't deserve a seat at your table. Applause echoes across the hall. Phones rise in the air to capture the moment. People cheer. Some shout, "Yes!" Andre smiles, shakes a few hands, and walks off stage to thunderous claps. He doesn't know that, in a quiet boarding house across town, his father is coughing through the night, wrapped in a thin blanket, too weak to get up for water. Wallace never mentions Andre again. Not once. Not even when someone asks him if he has children. He just smiles politely and says, "No, it's just me." He still goes to the park sometimes, even if walking takes longer now. He sits on the bench, watches the world move on around him. Sometimes people pass by and look at him, then keep walking. Nobody asks who he's waiting for. Nobody asks if he's all right. Nobody asks if he once gave up everything. They just walk on. Wallace, barely able to walk, boards a city bus back toward Andre's area. He holds onto the pole tightly with both hands, his legs shaking from the weight of his own body. His cough has gotten worse. People around him shift slightly, uncomfortable. No one speaks to him. The bus engine hums as the city passes by outside. Glass buildings, tall fences, flashing lights, wide roads. Everything looks cleaner, newer on this side of town. He doesn't plan to knock this time. He just wants to see Andre, just once more. Not to talk, not to explain, not to ask for anything. He just wants to know his son is alive and well and happy, even if from a distance. The bus stops near the end of the street. Wallace climbs down slowly, step by step. His patched shoes scrape the concrete. His fingers tighten around the straps of his cloth bag. Inside, it is a scarf, a small bottle of water, and a photo of Andre when he was a child, 6 years old, with a missing front tooth and paint on his cheek. Wallace walks slowly, carefully. His breathing is rough. Each step feels heavier than the last. He stops across the road from the tall luxury tower, the same place the guard turned him away, the same place where he was told, he said he doesn't know any Wallace. He doesn't try to go near the gate this time. Instead, he sits on a low concrete barrier beside a flower bed. He watches the front doors of the tower from a distance. Cars drive in and out, fancy black cars with tinted windows. Men in suits walk past. A woman walks a small dog in a stroller. The sun burns hot, but Wallace doesn't move. Minutes pass. Then an hour. Another hour. He shifts in his seat slightly, trying to ease the pain in his side. His body is tired, but his eyes stay fixed on the front entrance. He doesn't blink much. He's afraid to miss Andre coming out. The shadows start to change. Afternoon turns to evening. Still no sign of Andre. Wallace reaches into his bag, pulls out the water bottle, and takes a slow sip. His hands shake. A drop spills on his shirt, but he doesn't notice. Another hour passes. The streetlights come on. Still, no Andre. Wallace sighs quietly. He rubs his chest where the cough feels the tightest. Then he slowly stands up. He crosses the road, still not toward the tower, but in the opposite direction, toward the subway entrance. It's getting colder. He walks past the stairs and sits on a bench near the entrance. The city lights flicker around him. The air smells like smoke and fuel. People pass, fast, talking on phone, holding coffee cups. Nobody looks his way for more than a second. He coughs hard now, a deep sound that makes his whole body shake. He bends forward, trying to catch his breath. His fingers grip the edge of the bench. He stays like that for a long time, still and quiet. Then slowly, his body starts to lean back. His head rests against the wooden bench. His eyes look up at the dark sky. A train screeches underground. The vibration runs up through the ground, through the bench. But Wallace doesn't move. A man in a black coat walks past, glances briefly, walks on. A couple holding hands walk by. The girl looks at Wallace for a second, then whispers something. They keep walking. Wallace's eyes begin to close. Not all at once, just slowly, like someone drifting away in thought. The sound of the city grows fainter. He no longer hears the cars, or the trains, or the people, just the wind. He doesn't feel the cold anymore. He doesn't see the tower behind him, shining with lights. He doesn't see the man on the 10th floor, in a sharp grey suit, pouring himself a drink. He just rests, there, on that wooden bench, quiet, still, waiting for no one. Wallace's body is taken by the city morgue. No ID beyond a worn bus pass tucked inside the front pocket of his faded shirt. No phone, no wallet, no name tag. Just a fragile, tired body and a cloth bag beside him. Inside it, an empty water bottle, a torn scarf, and an old photo of a boy with paint on his cheek. They write, "Unclaimed male," approximately age, late 60s, on the paperwork. His body is placed in a cold drawer with a tag around his toe. No next of kin listed. No one comes looking. He is just another man the city couldn't place. Just another name they never had. Back at the boarding house, the landlord walks into Wallace's room. A small square space with peeling walls, and one window that faced a brick wall. He carries a black trash bag. He doesn't stop to grieve. He doesn't speak. He just begins clearing out. A couple old shirts, one threadbare jacket, an old city worker's vest with faded reflective strips, a Bible missing its cover, an envelope with nothing inside. The bed is made. The blanket is folded. There's no mess, no smell, no sign of anything recent, just emptiness, as if Wallace had quietly erased himself day by day before leaving. The landlord tosses everything into the bag. He finds no emergency contact, no letters, no phone numbers. Wallace never spoke of family. He never said he had a son. He never said he gave up his land. He never said anything. The landlord ties the bag shut and leaves the room bare for the next tenant. Meanwhile, just a few miles away, Andre Monroe is standing on a bright stage. 100 people stare up at him, hanging onto every word. He's wearing a deep navy suit, fitted perfectly. The screen behind him flashes bold white letters. Independence. Cut the ties that hold you back. He speaks into the microphone with passion and certainty. You don't owe your past anything. Not one tear. Not one apology. If your roots are holding you down, cut them loose. Build a new tree. A better one. The crowd claps. Some cheer. A woman in the front row wipes her eyes. Andre continues. I came from nothing, and I turned nothing into millions. You can too. But first, you must stop feeling guilty for moving on. Stop dragging people with you who refuse to grow. Another round of applause. His assistant, seated in the back, feels her phone buzz and checks it, then walks quietly backstage to wait for him. After the seminar, as Andre signs copies of his new book, she walks up to him and gently leans in. Someone from City Services called. A man passed away. They said your name was written down as a possible contact. Andre looks up briefly. What man? They didn't say. Just said it might be connected to you. He shrugs lightly and continues signing. Probably someone trying to guilt-trip me. Happens all the time. Ignore it. She hesitates. You sure? They said it was urgent. He doesn't even look up this time. If it's urgent, they'll call again. She nods and walks away. Andre finishes signing, takes a few photos, then heads to his car. The city skyline glows outside the glass doors. He doesn't feel anything strange. Nothing unusual. To him, it's just another successful event. He checks his phone. Missed call from a city number. He deletes it without opening the voicemail. His driver pulls up. Andre gets in and closes the door behind him. And the world keeps moving. Across town, in the morgue, Wallace's drawer remains closed. No flowers, no visitors, no one to say goodbye. In time, the city assigns him a number. They cremate the body. A small box of ashes is placed on a shelf, labeled with only numbers. Eventually, it's moved to a public plot. No ceremony, no marker, just grass, just wind, and the sound of silence. Andre returns home to his luxury condo just as the sun begins to set behind the glass buildings. The air inside is still, quiet, the kind of quiet that echoes when there's no one to speak to. He sets down his briefcase and kicks off his shoes. As he walks past the kitchen, something in the trash bin catches his eye. He pauses, bends slightly. It's a wrinkled envelope, half covered in peelings and paper towels. He picks it up. On the front, faded but still visible, "Thank you for your support. Rising Youth Scholarship Fund." He stares at it for a second longer than usual. The logo hasn't changed since he was a boy. Since Wallace scraped together coins from his pocket and sold a piece of home so Andre could sit in classrooms that never knew dirt floors. Andre sighs, then folds the envelope in half and drops it back into the trash. He shuts the lid. Later that night, he stands near his window, holding a glass of wine, staring down at the city. So many lights, so many people, but no phone call comes, no familiar voice, no old stories, no mention of a man named Wallace. Across town, in a quiet public cemetery, the wind moves gently through rows of modest grass. In one corner, tucked between two older stones, there's a small square patch of earth. A number is etched into a tiny metal plate. No name, no date of birth, no words, just numbers. The wind blows softly, leaves scatter. No footsteps arrive. No one kneels there, but the wind stays, almost as if it remembers. And in the stillness, the earth holds what's left of a man who gave everything he had, his youth, his land, his name, all for a future that never looked back. Hey besties, thanks for staying till the end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and hit that subscribe button. More real and emotional stories are coming your way. Love you loads. See you in the next one. Bye.